What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wager Alarm. I'm Howard Bender. With me is Craig Mish, and we're talking NFL wins totals. Tonight, we got ourselves the AFC South. How you feeling about the South? Oh, I almost called you Jim, right? The muscle memory there from the radio show. Jim says hello, by the way. I was talking to him earlier in the day, and he was like, you tell that Craig Mish character. I said, what's up?
Yeah,
I'm paraphrasing.
Very fun time doing this with you and say hello as well. AFC South a little wild, I would say this year. I would say that this is one of those divisions where pretty much anything can happen. It looks like the bad teams are really bad. I'm not sure if the good teams are really good. I would expect that this division at the end of the season to produce the least amount of wins in the NFL. That's the way that I look at this division.
Considering the state of a lot of these teams right now, I'm not going to argue against that. Not at all. I mean, let's just start with the elephant in the room. Is it an elephant really, or is it just that we're like, what the hell are we doing with the Houston Texans here? Yeah. At the time that we're recording, though, Deshaun Watson in camp, right? And so now there's a question of whether or not that he is going to play in 2021. The win total that I'm looking at right here from FanDuel is 4. If Deshaun Watson's the QB in 2021, well, of course I'm taking the over regardless of the juice. But if Deshaun Watson's not there, man, what about the under on that? I mean, that's just, if Deshaun Watson's not there, he's not under center. I'm sorry, Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills. It's like that scene in Major League when they're reading through the ball players for the Cleveland team at that point. Mitchell Friedman? Where are you going with Houston here now?
Well, first of all, you could get plus money on over 4.5 if you're interested in that on other sites. It is 4 on FanDuel, but you're laying some big juice there at minus 140. So again, shopping these lines around at different places, if you can, is very important, and don't just click on the first thing that you see. Now, the other thing that I want to mention here is that I usually don't go over on the top and under on the bottom on any win totals in sports, because they're sort of dragging you into the idea that Houston is going to be the worst team in the NFL and they're not going to win a game. I always remind people 2 years ago of the Miami Dolphins. It started off with a win total of 4, and they started off 0-8, and they ended up coming back and winning 6 games at the end of the season. Why does that happen? Because as bad as Houston is, there are going to be teams in the NFL that are going to be close to them, and they're going to pull out some wins. This happens every year. So I would not go under on any team that has a total this low. It would be over or nothing for me. And I do think there is some Watson not being on the team in this total. I do. I feel like that's part of this. Assuming Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback. Houston, again, could go 5-12, and you lose money betting on the under here. So just keep that stuff in mind. Jacksonville was supposed to be horrible last year. They were okay. Carolina was supposed to be terrible last year. They were okay, too. This is what the NFL is. It's a parity league. And if I had any lean at all, it would be over. And I would not be surprised to see them start off, Howard, 0-5 or 0-6. As the season goes on, they may not care at the beginning. Guess what? Other teams are going to drop off too. They're going to beat those teams as well.
All right, nice, interesting take on the Texans. I don't even know, that whole situation is.
It looks horrible.
It looks terrible. Yeah. The team looks terrible with. Even with Deshaun Watson, you're like, look at that. The backfield's blah, and the receivers are now blah. It's not good. So I'll avoid that for sure. Let's go to Indianapolis. The total here on FanDuel right now is 8.5. This is post Carson Wentz news. Now, more reports are rolling in that Carson Wentz his recovery time is closer to the 5-week than it is to the 12-week. I still kind of put it at like a 6 to 8 week thing, so he could miss the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, I think, and then you got to worry about what he's like on that first game back. The win total at 8.5. Do you have a lean either way?
No, I don't, because you know what? I was pretty bullish on their under last year. I was not a fan of Rivers. And even though Rivers wasn't great, he was sort of good enough to manage them because their defense, Howard, was so good last year. And down the stretch, they just gave the ball to Jonathan
Wait,
Taylor.
wait, wait. Say that one more time. What was so good with them last year?
Jonathan Taylor?
No, 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 no. Before that, rewind a little bit further back.
Defense.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I remember it was one of the first live streams we did last year when I said we got to go with the Colts. And you kept telling me whose defense, or we were making fun of me in fantasy. You're like, what defense would you ever take? And I kept saying the
The
Colts.
Colts. Well, you were right.
So I just love hearing it.
And their defense is good again. So what does that
So
mean?
good.
What does it mean, Howard? They're 8-9. They're 9-8. They're 8-9. They're 10-7. Like that's the team that they are now. Jacob Eason is going to be interesting. I am not ruling anything out with him. I'm not ruling out with him being horrible. And on my show on Sports Grid, I have not ruled him out starting 2-0 and taking the job. Like it's that kind of crazy variance here. I know it sounds nuts, but that's what I'm looking at with Indianapolis. It's a strange year. Now they are again well coached. They will take chances. They'll go for it on fourth down. Those are some of the things I like about them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the entire division is a 500 division. I really do. I don't see a path for one of these teams in the division to win 12 games. And we'll talk about Tennessee, but I don't see them either. So the good news for Indy is they get to play Houston twice. And assuming they win those two, their strength of schedule is not horrible. So in the end, the Colts are probably going to win 9, or maybe they'll win 10, but that's just too close to their win total. So this is a pass.
Yeah. All right. I like the pass. I like it. I mean, listen, I think that you make a great argument here as far as this whole division being like around 500 or,
So.
Slightly above, because we've seen that with this division before. We really have, I mean, so I'm not averse to that. Jacksonville should be a better team. Now,
Yeah.
how Urban Meyer coaches in the NFL and handles it in the NFL, his whole scheme and what he's doing, but listen, you've got weaponry there. They've kind of rebuilt a little bit of that defense as well. You've got some strong linebackers, an improved secondary, so much so that they're looking to trade away C.J. Henderson, one of their first-round picks from a year ago. So 6.5 is the total here for the Jaguars. I got to think if you're thinking that this is a like a 500 division, would you consider taking the over on 6.5? Can this team just be a 7-10 team?
I think they can. I do. I think Trevor Lawrence is equally talented to Joe Burrow. And if Joe Burrow played that entire season last year, Howard, the Bengals are going over their number. And I think that Lawrence is just as talented, if not more. They have a decent offensive line situation, a really good skill position receiver situation, a good running back situation. Their defense is not going to be great. I understand that. But they're getting games against Houston. They're getting games against Tennessee. They're getting games against Indianapolis. I don't think those teams are that formidable. And then again, statistics tell stories sometimes. And they had one of the worst turnover margins in the NFL last year, Howard. One of the worst, -8. That's as bad as it's going to get in the NFL. So what does that mean? It's unlucky. Those things flip the following year, especially when it's not Gardner Minshew, no offense. So they have a much better quarterback in play now. That -8 is going to probably go down to like -2 or -3. That's 5 less turnovers. That's probably 2 or 3 more wins. I like Jacksonville over 6.5. I don't think they're going to win 10 games, but would it shock me if they won 8 or 9? Not at all. I could see them being competitive this season. Lawrence is a generational type quarterback, and I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to be a great player, and I think they'll be very exciting. Their defensive coordinator, Charlie Strong, he's coached in college football. He can't coach offense. He knows what he's doing on defense. He's coached at Louisville. He's coached at Texas. He's coached at Florida with Urban Meyer. It's going to be a crazy season, some disasters along the way. They'll get to 7-8 wins.
Listen, I saw that line. I immediately, I see that's the great thing about it. You and I doing these for a few years together now is that we're kind of thinking very much in similar paths and similar ways on some of these lines. So I knew that you were thinking on the over on Jacksonville. I kind of thought that as well with the 6.5. And, you talking about this entire division being like close to 500, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. So let's wrap it up with Tennessee then, because, they add Julio Jones. So there's a little bit of firepower. But now the question is how does this offense work with Arthur Smith's replacement? I mean, granted, they're keeping the same scheme, but the play calling is obviously it's not Arthur Smith doing the play calling. The defense, I think their secondary is still trashy. I really do. And that was like a huge problem for them last year. The offense can run as efficiently as you want, but when the defense is trashy, you're going to end up needing to play some catch up there, regardless of the fact that you've got Derrick Henry running the ball. 9 games here on the over-under, but there's a lot of juice on that. Was that minus 150 on the over?
That is correct. And you know what? I would like me some plus 130 on the under here on Tennessee. The Titans, to me, are among the worst teams in the NFL defensively, which is shocking because they have Mike Vrabel there. You would think that they would be a good defensive team. They were not all of last year. But the stunning number is they were basically handed wins. If you go back and look at it last year over the 16-game season, plus 11, number 1 in the NFL in turnover margin. When you watch announcers on TV and you say that they have an opportunistic defense, that is false. The ball bounces in the air and the guy is standing there, Howard, and most of the time he catches it. That's what an interception is. There are great players that have played defense at cornerback. Darrelle Revis, yes, I get it. There are Hall of Famers type players. But in general, when your turnover margin is plus 11 and you have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, you got lucky. You got lucky to win as many games as you did last year. Now, look, Derrick Henry, if he does the same thing that he did last year, this number is going to probably go over because he was the most dominant player on the field at different times. But I also bet against that too. I bet against running backs who have had all that wear on them for a number of years. Tannehill, still a very good quarterback, great receiving core for sure, good tight ends. I think Ferguson probably has a chance to step up too. I don't think their offense is going to be a problem at all. They are going to be punching Cincinnati and Jacksonville back and forth, crazy scoring games I could see with them again this year. And I think they're going to go under. I think they're going to be a disappointment this year. So I'm going to lean under there. I think the division winner maybe only wins 10 games, 10-7 or 9-7. So either Indy or Tennessee or maybe even Jacksonville ends up winning the division. I got to tell you, of all the long shots to win the division, Jacksonville is the one that stands out to me this year. Interesting.
I'll go with Indy if Wentz is back and they can kind of get everything going.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna hate on that Jags call. And listen, I'm not a Jaguars fan in my fantasy lifestyle. I'm not taking Jaguars in drafts and just kind of a wait and see sort of a thing. But again, I like the over on the win total here for us. And I'll play a wait and see game. So, all right. So we're on the over for Jacksonville. For Indianapolis, we don't like the bet at all. And there's a lot of stuff we got to take a look at. Houston, we like the over 4, but you want to shop it around a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tennessee, lean on the under, which I think is a ballsy move, and I like that.
Yeah. Turnover margin, you have to look at that when you're betting win totals. Again, to me, it is the luckiest stat in the NFL. It does not show that you're good. It shows that you were either lucky or unlucky. There are caveats to that. There are generational players in the defensive backfield that are going to pick off the ball and are going to create a larger turnover margin. So certainly look at that when you're doing this. But in general, go back and watch an NFL game, and when a team turned the ball over 3 times, how many times was it the quarterback's hand getting popped up in the air and the ball gets caught? Or the running back is just running and out of nowhere he fumbles? This is not a skill. This is luck that's happening.
What you're doing right now, though,
factor in these.
What you're doing is the skill. Go back and watch any of our live streams and see some of the predictive things that you've said that have happened. Like, this is going to happen. I think it was a Tennessee game where you were like, what's it going to be, Howard? 6-3 at the half?
Right.
What are we going to
We're going to be hating it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those again this year for sure. But yeah, I think the division is. I mean, it's hard to say worst division in football, but the team that gets 10 wins, I think, wins the division.
All right. Well, let's get out of the AFC South then. A big thanks to all of you guys for subscribing to the videos here over at Wager Alarm. If you missed the AFC East or the AFC North, be sure to check out our YouTube page. You'll be able to catch all the work from Craig and I either on that page or just go to wageralarm.com. All the videos will be right there for you. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.